Jason Frudenich, a young luminary in the field of robotics. Fell into a deep underground world in pursuit of a strange creature. Waiting for him in that subterranean landscape was a lone vehicle. The interplanetary, all-terrain battle tank, Sophia III, served as his only means of resisting the horde of mutants that relentlessly attacked him as he traversed the unfamiliar world. Aboard Sophia III, he set out in search of the creature, Fred. On his journey, Jason encountered Sophia III's support droid, Eve. They worked together to search for Fred and battle the mutants, forming a deep bond in the process. They managed to locate the mutant core in interdimensional space, and by defeating it, saved the Earth from its impending calamity. However, it was not long before they faced another crisis. During the battle with the mutant core, a parasite infected Eve. A few mutant cells remained inside her and began to corrupt her body. Jason searched for a cure, but he could find no treatment on Earth. So, he hopped aboard the newly built GAIA-SOPHIA with Eve and Fred, and left the Earth behind as they set off on an interplanetary voyage. He had faith that a cure existed on Eve's home planet, Sophia. First game had a better title screen theme. Hello everyone and welcome to Let's Play Blaster Master Zero 2. Been meaning to get to this one for a while now, so I figured it's about time we do it. We're going to be starting a fresh new game here. This is being played on the Switch, by the way, compared to the last game which I played on PC, so let's get into it. Whew, that was close. We touched down right before our energy ran out. Eve, is the Gaia system holding up? Yes, SP was properly converted upon impact. The Gaia system is a brand new system Eve and I invented for GAIA-SOPHIA. Using the impact from a landing, the planet's energy flow is absorbed, and then converted to SP. In theory, it should allow for limitless planetary exploration. However, the landing wasn't as smooth as we had hoped. The hover function was damaged by the shock. But at least we can still drive around as normal, thankfully. We'll have to fix the hover function if we want to leave Flosante. First we ran out of energy, and now we've got a system failure. I knew it'd be tough, but geez, space travel is something else. It's not all bad, Jason. I've already got a reading on repair materials. I'm also picking up life forms. We'd better be careful out here. Roger that. Let's proceed with caution. Before we do that, we want to come into the menu and actually talk to Eve for some more info. This planet's really something. Huge rocks are floating in midair. There seems to be a unique type of mineral beneath the surface. It's exerting a force on these rocks, causing them to float. What a fascinating material. I'll have to collect some later. There must have been a powerful explosion at the core to cause the planet's surface to break up like this. I'd bet anything that the mutant invasion was responsible for this. The mutants are cosmic parasites. They consume life forms and resources, and with enough time, will even exhaust and destroy stars. In order to fight the mutants spread throughout the universe, Eve's home planet Sophia created the MA Metal Attacker series of battle tanks. My old tank, Sophia III, was the first in that series. Thanks to Sophia, Earth was saved, but the mutants have surely destroyed countless other planets across the vast universe. No matter how strong the metal attackers are, there's no way they can protect every planet in the universe. Even so, Eve will be different. I will save her no matter the cost. At the start of various parts of the game, you really just want to talk to Eve for some extra info. Eve, how are you feeling?
Kinda like rah-rah?
That's not quite what I was asking.
I think being in space is helping my condition just a bit.
Oh, so rah-rah means you're feeling good. Glad to hear it. The ability to do that was in the last game, but you really need to do it in this one to get a lot of character interactions that help flesh out the game's narrative. And there was a little bit of that in the first game now that I think about it, but 2 and 3, live or die by whether or not you remember to do that after a major plot beat or so. So there are mutants on this planet.
That mutant shell looks like it can deflect Sophia's main cannon. Use your missiles to knock off the shell before you attack.
Alright, I'll give it a try. Subweapons use SP, but hoarding it won't get me anywhere. I can recover the SP I spend with G-SOPHIA's GAIA system. When Sophia receives a big enough impact, SP conversion will activate. It's risky, but damage from enemy attacks also activates the system. The ideal method is falling impact on this planet's uneven surface. But I gotta be careful. If I hit 0 SP, the GAIA system will shut down. All of Sophia's functions will suffer too. It really puts us in a jam. I shouldn't hold back, but I need to avoid shutdowns, so I gotta make sure I don't miss any chances to recover SP. So back in the last game, SP worked a little differently. The GAIA system turns any large shocks G-SOPHIA receives into SP. Even taking damage will recover it, but I don't recommend that. The best method for charging SP is an impact from landing. The system uses the force of impact to absorb energy from the planet. The bigger the impact, the more energy is absorbed. It's a fitting system for a jumping tank like Sophia, don't you think?
True, but due to the way the system is built, using hover will greatly reduce the amount of SP you recover from a fall.
No matter how high we can get by hovering, we can't recover more than a set amount of SP. Even so, I can't believe the core unit of the GAIA system started as an accident.
It's just like when I mess up a recipe in the kitchen.
Yeah? Maybe? So back in the first game, the SP gauge was segmented like the health bar in certain amounts of sub-weapons use certain amounts, like 1 to 2 units. In this, your sub-weapon bar is an active bar that is drained, but whenever you take damage or fall down, you recover a set amount of that depending on the distance. With that said, like Jason and Eve both said there, if you run out of SP, the G-SOPHIA loses its red tint and just becomes monochrome, and your attack and defenses are lowered like nothing else.
Huh. Sensors are picking up an item right below us.
Seems like a cave. Sophia won't be able to enter. Let's find a safe spot for me to hop out and look around.
Be careful, Jason. I wish I could go with you.
Sophia's energy is suppressing the mutant corruption. Until we can find a cure, Eve won't be able to leave Sophia.
The mutants are dangerous, but so is the planet itself. The surface is very uneven, so look before you leap.
I will. Breaking my legs won't let me recover any energy, unfortunately.
Ha! Ha! Very funny. If anything comes up, give me a call through my icon on the subscreen. I can monitor your data through Sophia, so I might be able to offer some advice if you need it.
Thanks, Eve. I'll be counting on you, but get some rest, too.
Yeah, I will. Also, if you can't find your way back, use the Fred icon on the subscreen. Fred can open a wormhole that leads right to Sophia's position. As long as you aren't too far away, of course.
Got it. Thanks for all your help, buddy.
So, like Blaster Master 01 and most of the rest of the franchise, you can actively leave the Sophia and walk around as Jason around in the field, but your offensive measures are greatly reduced when you're like this. The G Crusher Shot is G-SOPHIA's main cannon. It doesn't require SP to fire and can destroy certain obstacles. You can fire diagonally or straight up by using the directional lock button, so it's perfect for firing at airborne enemies.
It's too bad the only cannon we could transfer from our last vehicle, the Sophia Zero, was the Crusher Shot. I bet the battles on our journey through space would be a lot easier if we could have used more of Sophia Zero's armaments. Well, it is my fault for running her ragged.
Don't say that. You did it for my sake, didn't you? You dove into the depths of the Earth looking for a cure. Besides, Sophia Zero's development was likely halted due to its energy problem. We wouldn't have been able to use it for very long anyway. If we had depended on that immense power, it could have easily blown up in our faces. We can't afford to get careless on this mission. And that's why we're not using the Sophia Zero from the end of the last game. So, Jason on the floor, he only has a piddly pea shooter while you're out here, and that can still damage enemies, but it takes a lot more hits than the Sophia would take. But also, you really can't fall further than like 2 or 3 heights of Jason's sprite as Jason, otherwise you die instantly. Be careful of that, but falling into water is completely safe. For now, it's time for the top-down sections. Let's talk to Eve for a pretty important tutorial really quickly. A blast counter is a powerful counterattack you can only perform when enemies are defenseless or about to attack you. Just press the counter button when you see the marker appear. Mutant nerve fibers weaved into my suit and cape are able to detect their attacks, and my helmet displays the marker for me. It's an invaluable new tool for fighting the mutants. However, if you don't have enough counterpoints, you won't be able to perform a blast counter, so keep close tabs on your remaining counterpoints. My counterpoints will restore slowly over time, but I can also recover it by blasting enemies with the G rifle. Right, higher gun levels will restore even more counterpoints, most of the time. Also, when your splasher or wide blaster have lost power over time, a single blast counter will restore them to full strength. Try not to miss any chances to blast counter. So, by and large, the top-down sections play pretty similarly to Blaster Master 01, but they've rebalanced a lot of the weapons, and you now have the blast counter option, which, whenever an enemy's about to attack, you can press X on the Switch controller, and you'll do a little dash out of the way. And if an enemy's actively attacking you and there's a mark on top of them, you'll shoot them with a projectile that not only does massive damage, but also very quickly stuns enemies. Like Blaster Master 01, your health is pretty much the same here in these sections, but whenever you collect little pink ammo tablets, your ammo meter on the top right gets more and more levels, and each of these are secondary attacks that each have their own unique effects that are all pretty useful in the long run. Map A, an interior map of planet Flosante and the planetoids in nearby space, can be changed on the subscreen. And whenever you find the treasure at the end of one of these little caves, Fred makes a wormhole for you to teleport out. And at that point, you should probably actually just use Fred again to teleport to the Sophia, but I very often forget to do this, mostly because I'm so used to the first game where you didn't have this option. Whoops. Something you should note, though, similar to the Blaster Master 01, your pink level for your ammo and your G-Blaster, that actively reduces whenever you get hit. So if you're, say, at the max level and you get hit once, you're back down to level 7, and that just keeps going down and down. For now, your main goal is to maintain as high of a weapon level as you can without getting hit. Thankfully, the blast counter makes that much easier to do than it was in Blaster Master 01, but on our first playthrough, you're likely going to be taking a lot of dumb hits still, so be careful. So our goal here in Flosante is to get to the cave at the top right to find the repair materials for the hover, but there's a couple of caves we want to enter along the way to get some other extras. Now, throughout the game, I'm going to be describing the various levels of the G-Blaster, but something I should note, there's things about the G-Blaster I didn't know about when recording until I did research for commentary, and while I thought I knew a good amount about the game, there was a lot of depth to what you can do with the gun in this game. So the base level is the G-Blaster. That is the only level for the gun that can actively recover your craft points, your counter points rather, just by attacking enemies at about 4% per shot. And here we have our first little mini-boss section against a just standard enemy rush. These, by and large, are going to be sped up moving forward in the parts, but here in part 1, where we're getting used to combat, I'm going to leave it as it is. These are usually just going to be combined enemies you found within the caves on that planet, usually, but there are a couple of times where they actually throw, like, unique mini-bosses at you, and those we're going to be seeing at normal speed moving forward. Not that they're very long to begin with, but worth noting all the same. Something else we have combat-wise, though, is our Subweapons, which is the yellow thing on the top left of the screen. You use those by pressing it's whatever the button on the right of your controller is. It's the A button on the Switch. The base one we have is the grenade, which you throw forward and just does some pretty decent damage, and I rely on that throughout a lot of the game. A lot of the Subweapons are useful, but I do prefer to stick with the grenade for a lot of the early game bosses because it's just got such a good concentrated damage amount. And here we're seeing one of the main mechanics for Flosante, floating platforms that you hit and will then knock down to the ground. You can use those to damage enemies in some cases, or even make platforms, but be careful, if they land on top of you, you also take damage. What's this a map of? It seems to be coordinates of resource planetoids in this sector of space. We'll need resources for our journey. They might be out of the way, but let's search for them after we leave this planet. Yeah,
We don't exactly have a lot of time, but it would be a huge mistake to rush a journey through outer space. We'll talk more about what the resource planetoids are when we get to them, because we're mostly focusing on just completing Flosante today. And even then, we're not going to be completing it, we're just finishing the story stuff here. This game, like Blaster Master 01 and the original Blaster Master, still has a couple of Metroidvania elements where you're going to be exploring around looking for item pickups. But there's still going to be the occasional moment when you're not able to grab something because you don't have a certain later power-up yet. On top of that, a lot of the planets have a thing you can't grab until the very end game anyway for reasons. So whenever you leave a planet and we eventually see like the item totals on everything, don't worry about leaving something behind. You'll eventually be able to come back and get it anyway. So like Eve said, there's a special mineral located throughout a lot of the later parts of Flosante here that are little glowing blue rocks surrounded by these gray rocks. You need to destroy the blue part of it to make the rocks split up and make platforms in order to reach higher up portions of this area. And you especially need to do that because we need to come up here for this game's first major plot dungeon. But let's take this moment to showcase something very important about Eve. Her tutorials. Gun level 8 Wide Blaster. With its large attack area and piercing shots, it's very easy to use in any situation. But before you think this is so overpowered, let me remind you that continuous fire will gradually reduce its power. If your old blaster rifle had the safety feature, it wouldn't be broken now, would it? We don't know how long this journey will last, so it's better this way. When the Wide Blaster's power drops, it'll recover after a while, but the energy expelled from a blast counter will charge it right up. So if you want to keep using the Wide Blaster, get those counters. If you have certain levels of your gun equipped and talk to Eve, or even certain sub-weapons, she will give you the rundown on how it works beyond even what the game's base description will say on like the pause screen or an item pickup. So use that if you're ever curious about some of the more deep intricacies of the game's attack system. Because like the Wide Blaster was in the last game, but once you unlocked it, you really didn't need to use any of the other ones until you got hit. Because now this has the powering down factor if you spam it, there's more emphasis placed on the counter system, but also using your other guns, and it's really cool. They really did a good job at actively making things make you use every aspect of the combat system here in 2 compared to 1, I think. Talking about the specifics of the Wide Blaster, though, since they brought that up specifically. It's a very wide shot, but the more you rapid fire it, the less wide it gets and its power diminishes. When you fire it at base, I think it does double the damage of the level 1 blaster. But then if you fire it enough from rapid fire, it shrinks down one size, and I think it is about the same damage as the level 1 blaster, but if you continue to fire it more, it shrinks down to a really small crescent, and I think does half the damage of a level 1 blaster shot. So in that regard, spamming it actually does make it weaker, but like Eve said, if you use a blast counter even once, it'll be refilled to max. So using that in tandem with enemies attacking you can be a really good crowd control method. Especially because some weapons in this game have the ability to stun a lot of mutants in the game, like those ones just got stunned there. The Wide Blaster, I think, has the highest chances of doing that to anything by default. It is ridiculously good in situations like that. As long as you're good about keeping an eye on how much you're rapid firing it, or good about keeping an eye on when you have counters open. We'll talk about some of the more levels coming up in the next dungeon, though, because for right now, it's time for our first actual boss fight. Before you step on a checkpoint, though, I recommend destroying any rocks nearby to grab any power-ups so that your power-up state is saved by the checkpoint. Alright, what do we got? Ugh. Eve, there's a boss mutant here. Jason, that mutant has a part we can use for Sophia. Looks like I'll have to take it by force. Two games in, still love that siren. So Mach-Ranchula starts by trying to spawn little babies that you can kill pretty quickly. But then it'll pull its tentacles back and try to throw them at you directly, and if they land, they'll just try to home in on you. Then it does this web attack where it creates an electrified web that can damage you when you touch it, but babies will walk around that, and it'll also limit which areas you can move around in. But if you're good about just spamming firing with the occasional grenade, that boss is pretty easy and dies really quickly. And for our reward, we get the hover. Press and jump, hold the jump button in midair to ascend. We get that right off the bat in this one. That did it. Great job, Jason. Thanks for the support. Are you feeling okay? Yeah, just a little tired. Don't worry about me. I know I've said it a million times, but please don't overexert yourself. Alright then, I'm returning with the part now. And this is why I'm very glad they have this teleport out. The Reflex Striker is a long-distance blast counter. It fires a powerful piercing shot at its target. When there are multiple counter targets, you can fire repeatedly without costing you additional counter points. While it's active, you'll be able to move faster than enemies around you, making it easier to dodge attacks. When you find yourself surrounded, try to use it on enemies that attack you repeatedly. The tutorials in this game are absurdly helpful. You just have to make sure you actively read them by talking to Eve. But with that, I'm going to need to end this off here. Thank you guys for watching, and in part 2, we're going to take leave of Flosante and see what else the world has to offer for us. See you guys then.